there really was a God? And what if this God created every single person with a logical mind? And what if every single person could use their logical mind to examine the evidence before them, and based solely upon that evidence decide what is more likely to be true than not? And what if this God that created all of us with logical minds got very angry at those who decided not to use their logical minds that he granted them with, and instead used faith to decide what they wanted to believe in? And what if this God was so enraged by people who use faith instead of logic that he decided to torture them forever and ever and ever when they die? Now, some of you might say that there's no evidence that a God like this exists. But hear me out here. What if you're right and this God doesn't exist? You will have simply lived a logical, rational life that incredibly benefited you while you were alive, and nothing more. But what if you're wrong and I'm right and a logical God does exist? If you've lived your entire life based on faith, then when you die, you're going to be tortured forever. So the safe bet here is obvious. You should live a life of logic and reason, just in case. I call this Dusty's Wager. And I came up with this the other day when I realized that I have a very logical mind. I concluded from this that if I have a logical mind and there is a God, then God must have created me with a logical mind. And then I concluded that if God created me with a logical mind, he must have wanted me to use it. And then I used my logical mind to deduce that the word faith literally means to believe in things without evidence, which is the polar opposite of logic, which is looking at all the evidence before you and based only on that evidence deciding what's more probable to be true than not. Logic and faith are exactly opposite of each other. And anybody who dared turn their back on their logical brain that was granted to them and live their life by faith instead of reason would obviously piss off this God more than you could possibly imagine. You'd have to be crazy to take that risk. So I suggest you live your life based on logic and evidence instead of fantasy and superstition. Not only might this save you from an eternity of torture, but even better, it will keep you from wasting your one and only life that you get on this planet believing in fairy tales like some gullible idiot. For the Cult of Dusty, I am the people's atheist, Dusty Smith. And I would like to remind every single one of you that if you ever find yourself in a position where you want to forgive somebody, the very best way to forgive them is to have somebody murder your son. Logic.
When it's time to judge my soul, when it's time to pay that toll, I know that